Hi, welcome back to the Carton Show. Much more on last night's results and how they impact the playoffs of both the NFC and the AFC. But speaking of NFC playoffs, after the Dallas Cowboys take care of business Sunday night against those no-good weasels from Philadelphia, Dak Prescott finally peacocking a little bit yesterday. That's going to be heard in the Eagle locker room at some point, should these two teams meet again this postseason, which is obviously a possibility. But, and again, that's Dak Prescott in the nicest, most mature possible way, saying we're so much better than Philadelphia that if I had played a little bit better, I would have dropped a 50 burger on their heads. It wasn't even close because when I heard it, I said, give me the stats. His stats are pretty good. 24-39, threw for just under 300 yards. You know, I'm not a big passer rating guy, but of course 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. If I had played better, so what's that mean? 33 out of 39, 350, and a couple more tutties, I guess, right?
Yeah, it sounded like he was saying, "I let y'all off the hook."
Yes, that's exactly what it sounds like.
That's what it sounded like. But at the end of the day, he had 150 yards, 157 yards before halftime and 2 touchdowns. So he was cooking.
Yeah.
It just, when you talk about what he feels like he's capable to do with his confidence right now, he could have put up more points.
I also felt like, just going back to the game for a second, that once it was clear to us watching the game, and I know that's not the same as being on the sideline at all, when it was like, this game's a wrap, I started looking at Philly differently. They look like a beaten squad, like in that fourth quarter. Like, I've never seen that team, because they do have so much bravado, though, and they talk a good game, and they've won so many games over the last 2 years in the regular season, but there was a sense of they're beaten.
Because they can't stop anyone. And it was blatantly obvious. Like, Dak Prescott recognized that. That offensive unit recognized. They had 1 punt in that game. They had 9 possessions. They scored 7 of their 9 possessions. The second one that they didn't score was the sack, fumble, pickup.
Right.
And
the Jalen Carter touchdown, right.
If they get that possession, they possibly score, put points on the board. So what he's saying, there's some validity to it because it was happening all game long. The Philadelphia Eagles defense gave me no reason to believe that they had any idea how to stop that Dallas Cowboys offense.
Right. So I'm thinking now, just going forward, especially after last night's results, where you see 2 major upsets that keep a lot of teams very much alive now in the postseason. Are we to look at what happened between Dallas and Philly and say, all right, simple, Dallas is the best home team in the sport, and they beat everybody by 30, scored 30, 40 points per game, all good? Or do we look at it and say to ourselves, man, there's something really wrong with Philly. I could see them being a first-round casualty.
I think that it's both. Dallas is really good.
Yeah, I guess they can be mutually exclusive things. That's fair.
We underestimate they wore their scars onto the field in Dallas, right? Like, they got the hell beat out of them by San Francisco. And there was a time where you needed a playmaker, you needed something. You had old man Fletcher Cox pretty much give you that 1 sack fumble, right? But at the end of the day, you talk about defense, who normally gets pressures and takeaways and does a fairly decent job in the back end, couldn't do nothing to the Cowboys offense. And so now you're going back-to-back weeks by getting beat up by 2 prominent offenses. And by the way, Seattle can score. Right? They can figure it out. So I don't know who they're waiting for or looking for to come to that door. And nobody's coming to save.
Let's take that a little bit further. We've all said on this show, and I thought we were right up until last night, where the Eagles will be fine even if they lost to Seattle, which they probably won't, because you got the Giants twice and the Cardinals. Well, you got to go up against the Italian stallion now. Like, all of a sudden, am I going to be the guy that says that Tommy DeVito can't beat the Philadelphia Eagles? Now, last year, as you know, the Eagles beat the Giants once, twice, 3 times, and they embarrassed them all 3 times. The Giants were non-competitive in all 3. Are you telling me that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to stand in the way of the Italian stallion?
Forget about it.
Forget about it. Because I'm now of the belief that they will split those 2 games.
Really?
That the Eagles will not win both those games. And I'll tell you why. There's something to be said I'll give you an example. I have a smoothie here. It's bananas and orange juice. You know what it smells like?
What?
Bananas and orange juice, okay? I believe that Super Bowl contenders look a certain way, smell a certain way, taste a certain way.
Ooh.
That tastes like a Super Bowl team right there.
Okay.
I think the Dallas Cowboys look like a Super Bowl team,
Yes, sir.
smell like a Super Bowl team, and they taste like a Super Bowl team on both sides of the ball, right? The Philadelphia Eagles defense does not smell like, taste like, or look like a Super Bowl squad.
You know what they smell like, taste like, and look like? Probably these numbers that everyone tends to overlook every time we watch the Eagles. But this is reality.
Oh, this is who they are.
I say he backs it up.
This is who they are.
This is who they are.
Like, you're absolutely right. Like, I don't think that – I think when I look at their schedule, they're going to be excited to get the Giants and a young third-string quarterback. This might be the reason, one of the reasons why they can get back on track and really find their footing defensively. But none of us will believe that, they've arrived now because of
But the issue also,
I'm with you on that. And I think we all said the same thing. The Eagles get healthy because of the last 3 weeks. Regardless of what they do against Seattle, they'll be just fine. I don't feel that way anymore because of that graphic thing you just put up there.
Well, I don't feel good about it because Jalen Hurts, he hasn't played like himself. Like, you talking about Jalen Hurts right now isn't looking like the MVP we thought he was a couple of weeks ago. So he's not playing his best ball, and you're not able to run the ball, and your defense is not backing you up. Who are the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah,
who are they at this moment?
That's a very, very good question. A very, very good question. The Philadelphia Eagles right now are not a Super Bowl team. So I'm not taking shots at you, Philly, but, spot the lie. Should have lost to the Bills. Should have lost to Kansas City.
Yes.
You did lose to San Francisco. You did lose to Dallas. And, I do think they'll right the ship a little bit over the last 4 games. That's based more on who they're playing against than about what they're going to do very well.
Yeah,
right?
and if you look at that schedule, like, we can say whatever we want to say about the Giants, but because it's a division game, they're going to compete. They're going to be competitive. But Kyler Murray is a mobile quarterback. If you can't get after him, he can get after that secondary. So that game, for me, Week 17, is going to tell me a lot about who this team is going to be going into the postseason. I feel like I already know defensively, but offensively, they have to right the ship as well.
And if I had told you a month ago that whether it's Week 16 or Week 18, the 2 games they have, against the New York Giants, I want to be clear, a team they dominated last year. All 3 times that playoff game was non-competitive in favor of Philadelphia, to their credit, right? That one of those 2 games, it could be the game that decides either the NFC's division or who the wild card team is. Because the Giants got something to play for now.
They play New Orleans
and they play the Saints this week.
And they can beat
so all of a sudden, the Giants, if they win that game, get to 6-8, and they've got the tiebreaker against Green Bay. They'd have the tiebreaker against New Orleans. So look out from my main man, Mr. Tommy DeVito, who has roasted these nuts in the parking lot before yesterday's big giant win against the Green Bay Packers. Did I go too far on that?
No, you're fine. Right on.
They're saying
there's a line, and you just kind of.
You always go too far.
You always go.
Walnuts, chestnuts.
Roasted over a fire?
It's Christmas time.
It is.
These nuts. Hey. Hey there. Thank you so much for watching The Carton Show. You can subscribe right here to get all the latest bits and segments from the show. And by the way, while you're at it, we have a lot of great shows on FS1, so check them out too.